Hello everyone, welcome to Titan Sports, the show where we provide you with the latest news about Cal State Fullerton sports and beyond. I'm Colin Costigan.
Hey everyone, I'm Sergio Gonzalez.
What's up Titan Sports fans, I'm Justin Rosette.
And I'm Jonathan Mansour. We have some interesting stories for today, so let's go ahead and get into the first one.
The Titans finished the night of March 6th against Cal Poly with 3 players in double digits, but unfortunately came up short with the final total being 100-61. Antoine Robinson led the Titans with a career high of 17 points, while Kendrick DeLuna also had a strong night, contributing 14 points to the Titans' offense. Lastly, center Zach Vicentin contributed 13 points while being a strong presence inside the paint. Despite having fewer points than Cal Poly, the Titans consistently caused Cal Poly to turn over the ball, gaining lots of offensive rebounds. Shortly after, the men's basketball team faced off against UC Riverside for their senior night. The match was a grind from start to finish, but it was UC Riverside that eventually secured the win 64-59. Early in the game, both teams seemed to struggle to convert anything from the field, but during the later half, excitement picked up as the close scores made it difficult to determine who would win in the end. It wasn't until the Highlanders extended their lead by 6 points in the last minutes of the game did a victory become apparent.
As for the female Titans on our women's basketball team, they duked it out on the court against Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for their senior night on March 6th. Aaliyah Stanton led the Titans with 20 points, and Eva Livingston scored 11 points with 9 rebounds. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to take down the Mustangs, as they lost by 6 points, with the final score being 68-62. However, the Titans had a better shooting percentage from the floor at 46.9% compared to the Mustangs' 42.3%. 2 days after the showdown with Cal Poly, the team traveled to UC Riverside where they played against the Highlanders. Down their top scorer, Aaliyah Stanton, due to a broken finger, underclassman Eva Livingston stepped up, ending the season with a new career high of 17 points. Even with this achievement, the Titans would end up losing the game by 10 points, the end score being 51-61. The team will lose 2 seniors after this year, but with the majority of the remaining strong underclassmen remaining, they stride forward with hope for the upcoming season. With that being said, we'll be tossing it over to Colin and Jonathan to cap off the men's and women's basketball season with our big highlight of the week.
I have a question about
Welcome back everyone, let's get right into the season finale for men's basketball starring Kendrick DeLuna. Alright, now here we have sophomore center Kendrick DeLuna with the quick gather dribble leading to an easy floater in the paint. Now this gave the Titans a 32-30 lead early in the second half. Now despite the loss, DeLuna did show his willingness to attack the rim with defenders draped around him, something he struggled with this year. Standing at obviously 6'10", DeLuna averaged just over 2.4 rebounds per game this past season, and he only secured at least 5 rebounds in just 2 games. Now, despite the struggles, this play right here demonstrates his ability to step up late in games and spark momentum for the Titans. With 2 collegiate seasons left, DeLuna has tremendous potential that can certainly help this program succeed in the future. But for now, I will be turning it over to Jonathan to cap off the season for both men's and women's basketball.
Thank you, Colin. Our men's and women's Titan basketball teams have concluded their seasons. As we look into the men's side, the Titans struggled all year, especially in Big West play, finishing 1-19. This would mark the worst record ever in conference play. They finished last in offensive efficiency among the Big West, struggled mightily from beyond the arc, shooting just over 27%. The second lowest three-point shooting team in the conference was Hawaii, who shot a whole 5% better than the Titans. On the defensive side, the Titans gave up a whopping 77.3 points per game, which was the second most in the conference. This led to 12 losses that had deficits of 20 points or greater. Adding on, The Titans were just behind Cal Poly in turnovers per game at 14.8. However, the women's team showed some fight all the way to the end of the season. After a rough 0-10 start, the team would go on to falling just short of clinching a Big West Conference tournament berth. Statistically, though, the Titans finished in the bottom half of the conference in offensive and defensive efficiency. In total rebounding, the Titans finished dead last in the Big West, averaging just 33.4 rebounds per game. On the bright side, sophomore Aaliyah Stanton finished in the top 3 in points per game within the conference, averaging 14.3, a very strong showing from her. Next up for basketball, all eyes will shift to the transfer portal, as it is fair to say that the Titans have their work cut out for them. The men's portal opens up on March 24th, with the women's opening up the next day. Let's head back to the table.
So first of all, guys, happy International Women's Month, right? We got to address that. And now, as Jonathan said, our women's basketball team, they started out slow, but they picked it up and almost gave themselves a berth in Nevada for the Big West tournament. What are your guys' overall takeaways this year from our women's basketball season? Sergio, I'll start with you.
I mean, ultimately, they showed fight. I think that was the biggest takeaway. They started off super slow. They were 0-10 to start the conference and somehow found themselves in a spot to compete for conference. So, I would say that's a win in a sense. Obviously, a win would have been going back to the conference tournament as they did last year, but fortunately did not. But, I mean, Aaliyah Stanton, as Jonathan highlighted, she's been awesome. I mean, 14.3 points per game. She came into a new offense looking for an anchor, and she became that anchor and solidified herself in that role. Mm-hmm. And hopefully she can continue to do the same and stick around for these next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to look forward to, and even in a lot of their losses, it was just the biggest problem was closing out games. I mean, to finish off this year, they did have the 5-game losing streak. They led by as many as 15 in their loss against Cal Poly on senior night, which did end up ending their season. And they struggling to score in the second half in that game. I believe they didn't score for the first 7 minutes of the third quarter. It's just consistency is a struggle for them late, especially down the stretch. I also think some of the rotations were a little bit off. I think there were some players who should have gotten more playing time. But regardless, I do believe that they have the potential. At least you mentioned Stanton. There's also Yana Fallsdottir as well. She's great on both ends, and because obviously she can attack the rim like Stanton, but she can also snag steals on the other end and lead to fast break opportunities for the team. So I would say looking ahead, I am optimistic for them. Hopefully they're able to add some people because they are unfortunately losing Hernandez and Strawn after this season.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Fallsdottir and Stanton, they can be very key pieces to build this program back up. You mentioned it, how Fallsdottir is very good on both ends of the floor. In the season finale, she had 14 points and 2 steals. And then kind of to piggyback what you were saying, Cal Poly scored 25 points in the fourth quarter alone. In the second half, the Titans scored 24. So we got outscored in the fourth quarter by 2 quarters, Cal Poly. And then 3-point shooting was a struggle all year. And it was showed in the season finale against UCR, shooting 1 for 8. It's just not a recipe for success, especially in today's game. So hopefully I want to open up the floor to the portal. I don't know if you guys have anyone in mind that maybe is exiting, maybe is you guys. I don't know what are you guys thinking?
Yeah. So overall, I was thinking. First, to go back to what we were all saying, a great second half to the season for our women's basketball team. I think one of the biggest things I'm concerned about next year is bringing our players back. Like you said, we have a freshman in Maddie Taro who had a really good season. Yana Fallsdottir, who brings defensive pressure every single game. She's one of our best players as well. Also, Eva Livingston, who isn't I think she's listed at 5'10", 5'11", second in the Big West in rebounding, which is remarkable for somebody at her height. And also, Madeline Muniz coming back next year as our shooter. And Aaliyah Stanton as well. She was a Big West honorable mention this year. She averaged 14 points. That's the biggest one for me. We have to bring Aaliyah Stanton back. This team next year is going to go as she goes. And I think this is a team that maybe is going to be 1 or 2 key pieces in the transfer portal away from potentially making it to a top 5 seed in the Big West next year. They're really good this year. They're 1 or 2 pieces away, I think. If they can bring back most of their freshman, sophomore core, they're really close, I think, to making a push. So next year, they're going to have to get a push on the recruiting, and I think they can make it to a top 5 seed in the Big West next year.
Well, you mentioned the portal is opening up soon. I believe March 25th is going to be for women's. So we'll see how the Titans fare in the transfer portal.
And now we'll transfer to our men's basketball team. That season just wrapped as well. I'm going to ask you guys again, what are your thoughts on men's basketball season ending?
Oof. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, I honestly have no idea where to start. I want to hear from this side of the table first because I know there's a lot to say for men's basketball.
I mean, I think safe to say, like, I'm glad it's kind of over. It's just really unfortunate. There's not much you can say, but there's also a ton that you can say. I mean, nothing clicked at all. Offensively, defensively, rebounding, size-wise, not a single thing clicked. And, I mean, you just can only hope that they're going to progress. There's not much you can really say or do. Unfortunately, I do think they're going to be losing a decent amount of players in the transfer portal, and I would unfortunately say rightfully so. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sergio kind of nailed everything. Just looking back at that Cal Poly game, I think that was like our season in a nutshell, you know? Cal Poly made 12 three-pointers, and while the Titans shot 22% from three. We struggled from deep the whole season, and then we had 24 turnovers that led to 36 points for Cal Poly. Just not good, not a good season at all. Wash this one away and start looking forward to next season. Build through the transfer portal because, like Sergio said, I expect a lot of players to probably transfer.
Yeah, and we'll see how they fare in that transfer portal opening up on March 24th. Over onto the softball field, our Titans went down to play UC San Diego in the Big West Conference. The team opened strong with a 6-3 victory against the Tritons. After extending their lead in the 5th inning with a base hit by Eva Arce, she collected her 25th RBI of the season. Pitcher Trisha McCleskey also displayed an impressive feat, only giving the opponent 2 runs before ending the game in the bottom of the 7th via a strikeout. Game 2 and 3 went in similar direction, with Fullerton winning 4-2 and 8-0. Both teams struggled to score in the 3rd game, yet the Titans went on an amazing run in the 5th inning, scoring 6 of their 8 total runs. Congratulations on the 3-game winning streak, and congratulations to freshman Natalie Lozano for being named the Big West Freshman of the Week after her standout performance against UC San Diego. She currently leads the team in walks and home runs. Well, guys, I know obviously it has not been pretty for some of our sports, but at least we can look forward to softball. Currently sitting at 16-9. They're 3-0 now in conference play after the sweep of the Tritons. Currently sitting at 1st in the Big West. What do you really like from this team so far?
I think the biggest standout so far has been pitching. I mean, you look at last year, they were put in a rough situation this offseason of losing their 2 best pitchers that also happened to lead the conference in ERA last year. But the pitchers this year have stepped up big time. You have Liana Garcia. She threw 6 innings, 11 strikeouts this past weekend. Trisha McCleskey, you mentioned her. She's been stepping up in a big way. And Eva Hurtado, the freshman, she's also been doing her thing and had a scoreless outing this past weekend. I would say pitching in softball always translates to better offense, and that's exactly what they're setting their team up for.
And like you said, Sergio, the offense, Ava Arce and Colby McClinton are both top 10 in hitting in the Big West, so that they've been big on the offensive side as well. I think when we were here last week, we were saying, or a couple weeks ago, we were saying that our softball team at the beginning of the year was really good, but they couldn't beat the good teams. In the Judy Garmin Classic, they beat number 5 LSU and number 20 San Diego State at the time. And those were big wins for them because their momentum has been able to shift going forward. Last week, I was saying that they were playing against a 2-13 UC San Diego team, and they had to take advantage, and they swept them. This weekend, they'll be playing a 4-16, another conference opponent. So we'll look to see if they can continue that and go to 6-0 in Big West play.
Yeah, I mean, great point on the Judy Garmin. I think really beating LSU and San Diego State, something that we struggled early in the year against ranked teams. Getting those 2 wins really built nice momentum for the Titans heading into Big West Conference play. I want to mention, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but the Titans this past weekend scored 18 runs and only hit 1 home run. They're using the whole field and putting the ball into play and keeping fielders on their toes. It's been a recipe for success. They've produced 34 hits over the weekend, and Sergio mentioned it. Pitching has been amazing. Combined ERA of 1.47 this past weekend. Let's see if they can continue it against UCSB.
Yeah, you talked about the great pitching. I mean, even from the batter's box, you mentioned Arce. She's 3rd in the Big West with a 4.37 average. She's 1st with 26 RBIs and 31 hits. And then you even mentioned freshman Natalie Lozano, Big Freshman of the Week. 379 average. She leads the team with 3 homers. She collected that 1 homer you mentioned this past weekend. And so right now this team has 8 total batters with at least a 300 average. And then they have the number 1 offense in the Big West with a team average of just over 330. The next closest team is Long Beach with 299. And they're also the only team in the Big West with at least 200 hits as a team with 213. So pretty remarkable what they're doing on both sides of the field.
Mother Nature has not been forgiving for the women's tennis team. As for the 2nd time this season, the rain has interrupted match play. The match against Youngstown State was canceled on Friday due to a combination of rain delay, lack of remaining sunlight, and unsafe court conditions. In their match against Colorado State, the female Titans would sweep Colorado State Rams 4-0 after the Rams were forced to concede the 6th single point and the number 3 point in doubles by walkover due to lack of players. Along with the win in the number 2 doubles 6-1, Fullerton was able to secure the doubles point, taking an early lead in the match. In the singles portion, Fullerton put on an impressive display with Milana Givagorian and Sain Myung winning their number 5 and number 1 matches in straight sets, going 6-3, 6-2, and 6-3, 6-4, respectively. Guys, the Titans are now in San Diego to take on George Washington State University today, but rain is expected to occur. If the game is able to be played, what do you guys expect?
For me, I expect our team has been playing a lot better lately. They've been struggling on the road. They're 2-3 on the road while being 3-1 at home. But I do expect them to, if the game goes on, if the match goes on, to perform well. I think our women's tennis team, to me, is very interesting this year because a lot of the other Big West teams for women's tennis have played more conference matches. We've only had one in which we beat UC San Diego 7-0. So I don't think we really know where we're at right now. Our next big test will be against Hawaii next Tuesday. So I think that's where we'll be able to see where we're at. Even our last game against Colorado State, they were undermanned, so we were able to win that game, or that match. But I think overall, our schedule is favorable because we had one Big West game, and after that we had 5 more kind of tune-up matches before our next Big West game. And after the Hawaii game, we're going to have 2 more non-conference matches before the rest of conference play. So they have a good balance of conference games and then games in between to get ready for the rest of conference play. There's a lot of good teams in the Big West, so we're going to see very soon where our team is at.
Yeah, and Justin mentioned, like, obviously they had the one conference play that they had this year. They kind of dominated. So I feel like these 2 games against George Washington and then Point Loma, which is going to be tomorrow, you mentioned they were in San Diego. I think both of those non-conference games are going to be key before they go and play Hawaii, like Justin said. Because, I mean, obviously in that game against Colorado, they were able to sweep because Colorado State was understaffed, I guess you could say. They just had 5 players. And I think it's just important. I mean, you got Myung, who really helped. She helped win singles number 1 match, which was important because Colorado happened to be leading in the number 2, 3, and 4 singles matches. But their match had already finished before, and they'd already secured the doubles point and the singles point prior to that. So I believe that how they fare in the singles matches obviously is crucial, but I believe the ability for them to step up late is going to be key for them as they roll into Big West Conference play.
For sure, and as you mentioned, they've been very successful in doubles, and obviously with the sweep this past weekend, they've won all 3 of their doubles matches. You have the duo of Caitlin Taylor and Seha Yu that have been dominating as a number 1 seed, or their number 1 seed, like for tournaments, and they are 6-3 as a duo. You have Dvorjian and Myung that are 4-1, and Yanatovskaya and Nikitash that are 2-2, and obviously they've all been stepping up and doing their part in making sure the Titans are successful in doubles.
Yeah, and Caitlin Taylor and Seha Yu, they dominated in doubles this past weekend. Hopefully they can this past weekend, and hopefully they can carry it over today and tomorrow, like you said, against Point Loma.
It was an unfortunate weekend for the Titans baseball team as Cal Poly took all 3 games in the Big West Conference 9-10, 8-11, and 4-10 respectively. Game 1 took place at Baggett Stadium and featured a rocky start as Cal Poly would go up 8-1 during the first 5 innings of play. This deficit would not last, however, as Fullerton would go on a streak of their own, scoring 6 runs and catching up to their opponent 8-7. In light of the amazing comeback in the latter half of the game, the Titans were not able to close out the comeback, losing to the Mustangs in extra innings after being tied in the bottom of the 9th. Game 2 in the series was filled with many fielding errors coming from the Titans, leading to Cal Poly's comeback and eventual winning runs in the second half of the game. This loss would affect the morale going into Game 3, as after getting a 3-1 lead early on in the game, Fullerton would struggle to find any more runs while Cal Poly would score several, ending the final game in the series. So now, guys, coming back to the table, our men's baseball team has been up and down. They lost the series to Cal Poly, but then they came back yesterday and won against USC here at home. What is your overall sense of this team right now? Very up and down, so what are you guys thinking about this team?
Well, I mean, I think for number 1, honestly, you mentioned USC, but before I can even really get into that victory last night, it has to start with pitching. I mean, it's kind of like this program, like you look at the record, you see that they're 5-11 on the season, and you think that like, oh, that's not very great. But if you look at their offensive numbers, they've been actually killing it in most parts. I mean, you've got multiple guys that are batting 300 plus. But I mean, you mentioned the Cal Poly game. They made 7 errors in the series. They had 6 unearned runs in the second game. They led by 6-1 in game 2, gave up 6 runs in the following inning after being up 6-1. They were up 3-0 in the third game, and then they gave up 10 runs in just the span of 3 innings. And just to give you guys a little bit of brief history. I mean, they're first in opponent hits in the Big West. They've given up 195. The next team is 170, which happens to be UC Riverside. They have a team ERA of 6.43, which is 10th in the Big West. And just to give you some national stats, they're 276 out of 299 teams in the entire nation with hits allowed per 9 innings at 12.54. And just for that record, Harvard is 22 spots above that. That is 1 spot above Brown. So you've got freaking Ivy League kids competing with you, which is just kind of embarrassing for the most part. So, I mean, if we want to talk about pitching, it's got to start there. But, I mean, at least to flip it over to the bright side, I mentioned some hitters. You got Bardwell, who's got 358 average, 4 bombs. He's slugging over 642 for the year. The first-year transfer, Kirkner, he's batting 323. He's tied for 28th in the entire nation with 25 RBIs. So some of these guys are stepping up for the program, at least from the plate, but it's got to start with pitching.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned pitching. In Game 1 of the Cal Poly series, Micah Negretti had 5 innings pitched but allowed 8 earned runs. And then in Game 3, the bullpen allowed 8 earned runs between Brady Dawkin had allowed 3 earned runs in 3.1 innings pitched, and Chris Hernandez, he allowed 5 earned runs and didn't even record a single out. So the pitching is alarming. And then I want to go back to the Stanford series. I feel like this series was a little bit of a replication of the Stanford series. 7 errors committed and a lot of blown leads. It's just it was ugly, but again, they won against USC. Hopefully they can carry that into this weekend. And you mentioned Andrew Kirshner. He also leads the whole Big West entirety in RBIs with 25.
For sure, and you guys mentioned offenses look great so far, and hopefully they can continue that, and offense can eventually overpower that pitching if they're going to continue to struggle. So hopefully they turn that around this upcoming weekend.
All right, that about wraps up everything we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of
Titan Sports.